Welcome to Ugly Oysters. This video is one of a series of discussions based on Jordan Peterson's book Beyond Order. Today we look at Peterson's chapter called Do Not Allow Yourself to Become Resentful, Deceitful, or Arrogant, focusing on the chapter finale. Why in all the world do Chinese women feel the most resentment? And why do people hate Peterson? Is there a way out of these deep, dark emotions? I have posted timestamps below if you wish to locate anything specific, and I do hope you enjoy the view.
No.
Okay. So good morning.
Morning.
How are you today?
Not bad.
Good. So we're starting the third part, the final part of our chapter today. What is that chapter called again? Do not allow yourself to become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant. And so we come to the grand finale. Are you all ready for that? Okay. So I felt that this section was maybe not as much detail to talk about, frankly. Maybe this will be a shorter section, I don't know. But after he talks about the story being the thing, and after he talks about all the different characters, and I think it's good just to recall that he said that those characters, the dragon and the treasure, the evil queen and the caring monarch, the authoritarian tyrant and the wise king, Satan and Christ. Once you're aware of all those characters, if you only have a partial awareness, he says, this leaves you undefended, it leaves you naive, it leaves you unprepared, and you are likely to become possessed by deceit, resentment, and arrogance. So that's what he said in the previous section. So when we come to this section, he says, where does that come from? And he breaks it down. He begins with resentment. He says resentment starts when all you see are the negative characters and you don't see the positive ones. So you basically see the dragon, but you have no concept of the treasure that's waiting there. You see the evil witch, but you have no awareness of the caring monarch. And on down through the line. You basically, you're focusing on the negatives and you're missing out on the positives. Not just that, but when you see those things, for example, if you encounter the authoritarian tyrant of culture, say, and you believe that that cultural wickedness is directed at you personally, rather than just a kind of force that's out there and could affect anyone, then resentment will build. Okay?
Maybe.
Yeah, you get the kind of why me thinking, like, and the thing is, the answer is, well, why not you? It could be anyone in this situation, but the person feeling this without the concept that this is just the way life is, can get filled with bitterness and resentfulness. And especially if the person who is asking that question believes that they've been living a basically good life, that they've been doing what they should do, and then something befalls them. And his purpose in telling the story and all the characters, the positive and the negative, is to let the reader know that this exists for everyone. All these potentials are there for everyone, the negative and the good. And so if you encounter the negative, to not be so shocked by it. But if you are shocked by it, it could lead to resentment. And it means that the person has lost the capability of seeing themselves as a hero in a struggle and recognizing that there will be positives as well as negatives. So, if you get into that frame of mind, then comes the risk for deceit and arrogance. We begin to think that the world that we're encountering is not a very good one, not a very fair one, so I'm going to make my own world. And you begin to practice deceit. You begin to lie to yourself about reality and begin to create, and I'm using the words yourself. I don't mean you, I don't mean the audience, I just mean people. People begin to create false realities, kind of fantasy worlds that they live in rather than the real world, and that begins the practice of deceit. They lie to themselves, they lie to the people around them, and they think that by lying they can change the world into that place that they so desire. And maybe also get revenge for the injustices that they perceive have been directed against them. The arrogance, I believe, is related to that in the kind of boldness to practice this sort of deceit. That my truth is better than the truth, say. You know? So, I think that's basically what he's explaining. He uses a lot of religious references to communicate this. Yeah. But I mean, that's how I read it. Did you have any different point of view or something else stand out to you about this before we proceed? Sorry?
Just now you say it's only when it turns to individual, we'll have this kind of a why me resentment.
Yeah.
But I just felt how to say, like I just read an article in the morning, and it's kind of in the psychology. There was I don't know the method. It's kind of like a generation by generation to sort out what your resentment resource is. So it's kind of like by generation. It's kind of there is a word for it in Chinese, but I don't know what it is in English. So it is said in all of the world, there's kind of a workshop, and usually Chinese women are the one who cried the most. When they do this kind of a workshop, it's kind of the Chinese woman will feel the most,
pain.
The sadness, the sorrow, the angry, or the resentment. So I think it's what's there. It's kind of like systematically. It's like building the society, and it's said usually like the man is just to be there. Like they don't go toward the woman. When they do together, maybe the family go together, and the boy just will come to the father and felt to be rejected, then go to the mother again. So I felt this is kind of a cultural thing. For example, like it's built in the system. And And the system will cause the part of the population, like say in China, it's women. So they felt this resentment is building in their blood. Then they will share this resentment in other areas, like in other tunnel, not to the man, but to other area. So, I mean, maybe not just when it comes to why me, the situation seems the resentment is high. Even though there's a particular why me, the situation, the resentment is already built up there. So that's just something I'm not very much agree.
So can you just state what the disagreement is briefly?
I say it's not just a particular, come to my particular situation, the resentment will be built up so highly. I mean, it's just when it's systematically, it's already there. If the resentment is always also very high there.
Yeah.
Just
it seems like the resentment there is why us. Pardon?
Seems no reason, and seems no one can blame. But it is there. So that's why the workshop, they will cry the most. Because they're allowed to come out their resentment, their sorrowness, emotion.
Are the women feeling the pain of their role in society? Is that it? Is it?
I think so, but I mean, not every woman will think about it and aware of it. Maybe to them, they just think, oh, why this supermarket is so stupid and I want to buy beef. Why they don't supply beef today?
I see.
Maybe just get angry out of other nonsense things.
I see.
But they don't know. I mean, not everyone will be aware of.
Yeah. So they're feeling pain. And maybe they don't even know what the source of it is, but the women...
Yeah. So that's why I say it's actually systematically building the society. So it's I think Peterson always talk about the hierarchy system, why people don't understand the value of hierarchy system. But I think the bottom, in the bottom, the people, the angry, the resentment, the sorrowness, he may not understand because he always on the top. So he will value, you see, a general, of course, will value the soldier, the structure of the soldier, I mean, the army. But the soldier, individual soldier, they're on the bottom in this hierarchy system. It's them, they're going to sacrifice their lives for this war. Yeah. And the general will get the medal from the king.
Yeah.
So who's going to value this army more? Of course, the top's the one. So I think this may be built in. I mean, the anger, maybe even the anger, the soldier, they're building the anger in their blood too. But they, instead of hate the general, they hate the army, enemy. So they fight furiously. So I mean, it's kind of, they would say the war the art of manipulation, You just change the anger of the soldier toward the enemy, So, but if you are at the bottom and you get the systematically, pressure all the time. And if you don't know, you also have resentment, just you don't know the source. But at that time, so for example, you are the smartest soldier and you realize it, say why? Then you will have this anger. Then if the general named Peterson say, this have the reason, boy. You got the benefits of the hierarchy system. And do you think he will listen? And that's why I think lots of people just hate Peterson on the net.
I see. Well, that's interesting. So
yeah,
if I can...
It's a different situation,
If I can repeat to you what I understand that you're saying. So the soldier or the woman in either example they both have a resentment, but they can't place who the resentment is directed to. They just feel that something is unfair, and they either have tears, they're in pain, or they're angry, they want to lash out, but it's misdirected and they don't know where to place it.
Yeah, because the society will tell you loyalty to the king, fight this war is honor for your soldiers. So they are they are educated to listen, But they actually, I think, deep down, they don't understand.
So, but do you think at least these soldiers or these women still are personalizing it and saying, why me? Like, why do I have to go through this kind of feeling? Or do they just...
I think I felt, for example, like in China, maybe last decades, like 99% women maybe don't realize it. But now it's more and more women just realize it. Then came the individual resentment, like what you said just now. They will say, why me? Why we women just have all of the suffering? But still, you see, because all the atmosphere will tell you, you're the woman, of course, or you're the soldier, that's your job. And that's your honor, that's your life meaning is. So they kind of still confusion that sometimes they think, oh, I'm too selfish to think that way. Sometimes they will just be angry, think, why me? Why we women? Why we soldiers?
Yeah.
So I just...
So, and how do you think Peterson would talk to them? I think I caught it, but just say directly.
I think Peterson, because he still emphasized the value of this hierarchy. I agree with him. I think of a society without the hierarchy system, maybe it's also more chaos. So at that time, maybe not only women suffer, men also suffer, and children. So now the society, they just sacrifice women for the better future of the men and the better future of the children. So at least just sacrifice 1/3 of the population. But if the women say they don't want to bear children anymore because they're angry, so then the society will get smaller and smaller, okay? And also there will be chaos to everyone. So who knows? So to be a sustainable society, maybe hierarchy system is valuable. For example, now, if the other country going to invade your country, if you have no army, no soldiers going to listen to you. So, of course, the society will be not safe anymore. So who going to take that job and to do that honor? Who? So, I mean, it's reasonable what Peterson will say, hierarchy system is good. But it's also reasonable for the bottom people say we don't like it, we hate it.
Yeah. So, So I think, just to defend Peterson a little bit, I think he's also saying that, the hierarchy system will have its faults, and those things you need to struggle with. And when you struggle with those things, you have potential to get your reward. Just like when my brother talked to me, as I mentioned in the last video, long time ago, when we were playing football out in the street, and he just said he just realized that if you take the side of society, society's going to give you benefits. And if you fight against it, then you're not going to gain those benefits. So, for example, he said, I dress nicely because I know that people recognize when you dress nicely, and then you get some benefit of their attention, like just this kind of objective way of recognizing your environment and manipulating it as much as possible in your favor. I don't mean manipulation in a negative way, I just mean addressing it according to the conditions. And realize that you might lose, but also you can win. And if you lose, toughen up, try harder, because everybody has that risk of losing too. Nothing's guaranteed. So, in that sense, I agree with Peterson, and I can see that resentment doesn't help a person. Like, for example, if I went to university and I'm dressing in a kind of ugly way, in a way that many people just don't find attractive, and then I resent the fact that nobody wants to be friends with me, say, that's my problem. I'm not recognizing the reality and doing something about it. And that resentment is becoming a problem for me. I'm making my life worse by being resentful. So I can see that. But I find his chapter, especially when he starts talking about these things, to be heavily moralistic about truth-telling. And you start getting the sense that he's kind of angry with people who are liars, say. And I think he loses the momentum of his argument, because I start to feel it's as if he's preaching. I didn't feel he's trying to help anymore. I feel like he's trying to put a moral code on top of me rather than guide me, the reader, to see why truth-telling is good or whatever. He just starts describing different kinds of arrogance and so on, and he loses me. And I start thinking things like this. There's a story called The Hobbit. Do you know that story? It's written by J.R.R. Tolkien.
No.
Okay, well, if we use Peterson's argument, the story is the thing, let's just look at this story. It's a story about a group of dwarves who have...
I know.
They've had their mountain home taken away from them by a dragon. And all their history, all their treasures, all the wealth of their nation, this dragon sleeps on it. It's his treasure now, and nobody can get it. And the dwarves are resentful. They want their kingdom back. And I think that resentment powers their courage. And they prepare a counterattack, basically. They're going to go back and take that mountain from the dragon. And the thing is, in order to do that, they have to practice deceit. They can't be direct. They have to lie. They have to be tricky. They have to be strategic. And the head of those dwarves continued to call himself the king under the mountain. Well, if he's a king, why is he not in the mountain? You could say that he's lying to himself. And he's lying to others. He's not living in reality. You know? But they go and they eventually defeat that dragon. And the hero of the story is a thief. Somebody who's very capable of stealing and also capable of making himself invisible when things get kind of tough. He sort of disappears whenever things get a little difficult. Like, all of these things seem to contradict what Peterson's talking about. There seems to be a goodness and a value to resentment and deceit. And even you could say that king who never let go of his title as king, you could say he was a bit arrogant. He was letting his idea of the way the world ought to be, he was letting that determine reality. He was kind of making people conform to it. And so to me, this is getting into, again, a leadership issue. Leaders, in some ways, they have to envision a world that doesn't yet exist. Peterson talks about reaching into the chaos to what is possible, you know? And I think if you do that, if you advance into the world of the possible but not yet, then in a way you are living in an unreal world until it becomes real. So I'm pushing back on Peterson here. I mean, in a very limited psychological sense, I think he's right. Like when we lie to ourselves, and when it's based on things like, you know, not dressing properly when you go to the university, or, you know, certain things that we do to damage ourselves, and like that dwarf who's a king, if he died or got severely wounded as he tries to recapture his mountain, I don't think he'd be resentful. I think he accepts that there's a dragon there. And he accepts that his job is to challenge that dragon. So I think he's not subject to resentment because he recognizes the sheer force and danger that he's confronting in order to maintain his kingdom, basically, or recover his kingdom. And either recovering his kingdom or keeping his kingdom is always going to require courage in the face of danger. So I don't think he's resentful in that way. He just resents that somebody beat him and he's going to fight back, you know? There's also a biblical reference for this too, you know, like the main hero of the Old Testament is Jacob. Jacob became later named Israel, father of many nations. And he was blessed by God, saying Jacob prevailed with God. He wrestled with God and prevailed. And Jacob was a cheat. He stole things from his brother. He was devious, and yet somehow also a hero of faith. So I just think it's more complicated than what Peterson is laying out. I think the place where we most need to be sort of truthful is in the facts of existence. I think we all benefit from that. I think recognizing the facts is very important. Like, if those dwarves pretended the dragon wasn't in the mountain, then they're deceiving themselves. But if they know the dragon is in the mountain, but they refuse to accept that that is the reality that's going to remain, then they're not deceiving themselves. They are projecting themselves into a future reality that they want to make happen. That's different. Yeah. But pretending the dragon isn't there and just going into the mountain thinking they'll just recover their treasure, that is naive. That is stupid. And if Peterson's talking about that, then I agree with him. You can't be naive and stupid like that. That's just no good for anyone. But truthfulness on the level of honesty, honor, human dignity, well, these things have to have variation because, you know, in their quest to recover the mountain, they had to be deceitful sometimes. They had to. But they had a vision of a moral good, you could say. That dragon did not. It was not good for anyone except the dragon only. That dragon owned those riches. And so they saw a higher moral good. They have to take those riches from the dragon, because all that dragon does is sleep on the riches. It benefits no one. Just the dragon's greed. Period. Yeah, but I do think sometimes we have to betray the present order in order to achieve a future order. That's my thinking about all this. And that means practicing deceit, and maybe even, to other people it seems like you're lying to yourself, but in your own mind you've got a vision of something that could be, and you're seeking to attain it, and then you are the hero, hopefully, as long as you're not just another dragon who just wants to take everything for him or herself. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Okay.
Did you feel challenged at all by this in any way?
Be challenged by what?
By Peterson's chapter, particularly this section, or now that we're sort of at the end, just reflecting on the whole thing?
Can't say challenge, but I just felt it's good.
In particular, what was good?
You mean this chapter or the whole book?
Just the whole chapter. Like, we've done the end section now about deceit and whatever, but just reflecting on this end piece and the whole chapter in general. Was there anything?
I think just give a conclusion about what he is want to convey through this book. So that's nice that he will do this.
Yeah. So did you have a particular takeaway from this, like something that is useful to you? Say.
I'm not that much high evaluated this chapter as what you did.
I see.
It's it's to me just a conclusion of what he said before.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, if you didn't high evaluate it, what score would you give it?
Still 7.
Still 7. Yeah, I high evaluated it. If it wasn't for the last section, I would have probably given it like a 9 or a 10. But because of the last section, which I just felt was too moralistic and maybe not too settled on the way things are and not enough on what could be, I gave him 8.5. So in our way of scoring things here in British Columbia, 8.5 is 1% below an A. So it's a high B.
I see.
Yeah. But if he had continued the last section as good as the first two, I would have definitely given him an A, because I like the framework of a story for analyzing life situations. I think it's sadly lacking in our society. Like, if people want to critique Peterson, the way that they will do it is they will come at it with a scientific base, or they'll come at it with a logical base, and they will have that kind of arrogance looking down their nose way of analyzing it. They'll say, science knows everything, and this definitely isn't pure science. Or they'll say, logic is everything, and this is definitely not following the pure logical explanation. The thing is, you have to have this other frame for interpreting life. These things, deceit, arrogance, pride, these are not measurable, objective, definable qualities. These are things that arise in the story of living and have to be understood in the context of story. And I love that he presents that frame. It, to me, you know, the arts and humanities have been set aside as secondary for far too long. And the arts and humanities help us understand these things. Otherwise, we're just a one-eyed monster. We can only see with one eye. We don't get a depth perception of life. And we can
make life more abstract, not like you go ahead.
yeah, too abstract. So yeah, but unfortunately, I just felt he needed to give more credit to deceit and even arrogance and resentment. I just think those things also have their value. They also have a yin and yang aspect to them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
it's like, for example, it's just like even the resentment or the hate or whatever will increase the courage. Like if the enemy invade your country or like put your dignity on the ground and step on it, if you don't have this enough anger to trigger your courage, I think it's also not right.
Yeah.
Like it also can become a fuel, like to your life fire. I mean, like we have this life, we just have a fire going on. Because in Chinese thinking or East thinking, like if a life is gone, like if you are dead, like it's just like a light was put down. So there is no light anymore. So you also need some fuel to your light. Either anger or love or resentment or, passion, whatever, like it's all one of the wood, one of the fuel to your fire. If you just have any emotion, you're just dead.
Yeah.
I think so. According to that, I think every emotion, even negative, is good.
Yeah. So maybe how to guide that in a story framework. If your resentment, anger, deceit is contributing to your heroism, then it's good. If it's contributing to making you into a kind of devil, then it's bad. Tyrant, right. So, because there is a need for heroism. That's what defines a good story, is when you have a hero. And a hero, that means somebody that is to be admired. So there are ways in which deceit is an admirable quality. It just would have been helpful if Peterson acknowledged those things. Then the other part would have been easier for me to read. It wouldn't have sounded so morality style,
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like at the beginning, what I said to you, like in this generation by generation sought out thing, workshop.
Yes.
Say the Chinese women, they cry the most.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is kind of by this counseling or by this practice of the workshop It turns out the man, the half of the population, the men have no emotion. It's like high evaluated in Chinese society. Seeing the person who have emotion is the lower one. It's the kids, it's the woman, it's even the animal, know.
Yeah.
But if you are higher standard, if you are improved enough, if you are already developed human being, you should have no feeling. You should have have this very still, looking. It's kind of so that's why you see all of this the Chinese famous literature, like the Red Chamber. The final, like the higher, what's the word? Climax for the book.
Yeah.
Like is Bao Yu go to be a monk? What up to be a monk? No feeling. Cut away all of the relationship with human being. Cut away all of the relationship with his feeling. As long as you brave enough, like you cut away all of the emotion, cut away all of the human being relationship.
I see.
So then you got the redeem. So this is ideal Chinese thinking for a spiritual hero. So you see, a spiritual hero actually, have no feeling, no emotion, no human being aspect. So what's that is? So you see, this caused a big trouble. I think all the men are encouraged because everyone wants to be the good man, or everyone wants to be the, the developed human being. Don't want to be always stay in the childish aspect, So basically, these men are trained to have no feeling and emotion. But the women are suffering because they can't get the human being love, It's all abstract love. So that's why they're sorrow, they're crying the most, because they don't fulfill their needs. But if they ever have this need spread out, like ask about, then people will judge them. Oh, you're just too childish. You women, you see, you're not developed enough. So they need to deny themselves by having emotion, by having human needs for emotion. So I think this is something like when you just cut all of these, it's also cause a resentment.
Yeah, now you triggered something that I was thinking about this chapter, and I'm still just trying to recover it in my mind. Seems I didn't put it in my notes, and I thought it was sort of a deep insight. But that is that this truthfulness concept, this is a very, it tends to be very left brain thinking, like right or correct, like a visionary, a leader is going to operate from their right brain. They're going to imagine a world that doesn't yet exist. And the left brain is going to say, but that's not reality. And the right brain is going to say, why can't it be? And so there's this kind of internal conflict of truth-telling in a way. It's right inside us.
Yeah.
And which is the greater truth? What could be possible, or what is the limitation? And if you do this moralistic talking, it's going to press you back into the left brain, I think. But I do think the right brain has a version of truth. You call it sincerity of vision, or something like sincerity, or something like genuine, or it's a different kind of measure than truth. And I think our task as individuals is to live between those two true worlds. The truth of our feeling and the truth of facts, the logical and the material. And getting to the Chinese culture that you're talking about, and particularly Bao Yu in the story of the Red Chamber, I think what's coming out in that story is a struggle between sort of the female world that Bao Yu is in for so many years of his life, and the male world. And the book is very good at portraying the contradictions that exist between those two worlds. It's an unfortunate conclusion that Bao Yu chooses to live a life void of emotion or feeling. A much better conclusion would have been if he could learn to live in both worlds, a feeling world and a non-feeling or so-called objective thinking kind of world. Yeah, but I think it's important to realize that these two sides of our brain do create an inner conflict for us also, because sometimes the objective facts do conspire against our own vision of things, and so we can think of ourselves as being deluded or kind of just having fantasies or whatever. And I'm not sure exactly what the formula is for embracing both of those realities. You know, I think that there may be a biological base in which we give preference to one or the other. Maybe I give preference to the story over the science. I just include science as part of my story. And maybe the scientist gives preference to science over the story, but as long as they include story, I think their thinking is better. As soon as we polarize it and just make it one or the other and then finish with that, then I think we're headed for some kind of danger.
So I just, what I want to say is just this, even without like resentment or these negative feelings, it's not a good sign. Like a gut feeling is not a good sign.
Yeah.
It were a junior life. So like when I read our literature, like I never felt the redeemed feeling. Felt no way out, you know. Like even this famous Red Chamber, it gave your advice is flee away from the world. So you as an adolescent, you're full of energy. You want to engage to the world. You want to like love people. You want to devote yourself to the society. You want to help people. But then it tell you the only way, the ultimate way is you cast away to be a human being. You cast away to have any feeling. Even in like so that's it caused me to thinking even you have resentment, it still means you're alive. It's better than Bao Yu's way to go to be a monk, I think. I don't put down monk, I don't put down Buddhism, but I don't think it's for a normal human being like me. I don't value that kind of a life for me. It's not my life pattern. So then give you no way out. So that's why I just feel some.
Agree. Even Peterson critiques the Buddhist thinking. He says basically it's good for the present moment. If you want to have present moment awareness and you want peacefulness and so on. But if you're thinking about the future, you have to have some kind of push, something that moves you forward into that. And just a plain acceptance of everything that is and have no feeling is not going to do it.
Yeah, no, they just want outside of the world.
Yeah.
So they just basically say, I don't play the game.
Yeah, right.
I was never born on this world. So, but I think by doing that, they failed
Yes.
to fulfill this destination of this life.
Yes. So, to
Yeah.
use the story of the Hobbit, that would be the same as the king under the mountain saying to himself, "This is my fate. I'm born to grow carrots in a garden. My destiny is not to rule this mountain. That's the dragon's. I accept my fate." No, he didn't. He got resentful and he said, "I want what's mine and I want it back."
Yeah, yeah. So this is more like a Christian and Western culture, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a more going forward, which I like it. Especially, I think, to adolescents, to the people who full of energy. You
Yeah.
can't like just like suppress that desire and just tell them to be a monk.
Right. Right.
It's kind of like a flee away from the world. For what?
Right.
So somehow I think I love this Christian world, the religion even, like because it has the warm feeling.
Yeah.
It's into the world. It's tell you how you can into the world, live your life, this particular maybe 70, 80 years, or even some people are shorter. So, but live this life out.
Yeah.
But not like avoid, like a waste, like the Bible story, like a waste the coin. You buried it on the ground. Say, you don't want to live in the world. Okay, so next life, I will never give to you because you wasted. So God may never let you born again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like both. I like, on one hand, the pure contemplation of facts and just acceptance of them, like Jesus in the storm in the middle of the ocean, and the sailors, his disciples saying, "Master, don't you think we're gonna die?" You know, and he's just sleeping, and he says, "Oh, you have little faith." So on one hand, I do agree with the pure acceptance of facts and the way reality is, and to just be okay with everything. But on the other hand, I also think there is an impulse to move forward and to grab hold of what could be. Like, I love the story, Genesis chapter 12, where God calls Abraham and he said, "Leave your family, leave everything behind, and go to a place I will show you." He doesn't even know what he's doing, you know? He just goes. He launches out into the unknown. And I think that takes a lot of courage. But if you have that ability to accept the storms, it also gives you the courage to move forward into that future unknown. Because if the storm's not going to hurt you, then what's the future going to do? Like, you just go and try. Even though, yes, there's danger. You know, I don't think Jesus was saying, "Oh, you have little faith, nobody's going to die." I think he said, "Oh, you have little faith, why can't you face your fate?" You know?
Yeah, maybe. I just felt, to me, it's this embrace the life attitude is more than discard the life attitude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agree.
So that's the difference. So even the price is you have the resentment, you have the not good.
We'll just stop then?
So it's about finish, right?
Yep, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So we just say thank you for today.
Yep. Okay. So, we'll see you later. Had to go.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye. That's it for today. Come back and check out some of our other videos. Please put your comments below, hit like and subscribe with notifications if you wish to join in conversations with us on other topics.